send Molly to HBCU Week's College Fair. Join us this Friday at the 76ers Fieldhouse in Wilmington, Delaware. You don't want to miss this First Take live broadcast. We'll have special guests like Irvin Magic Johnson, HBCU marching bands, a step show, Delaware State's drumline, live DJ, and come watch me crush Max, of course. That's live as well. Now listen to your boy Stephen A. Seeing us live is 10 times better, so don't you dare miss First Take in Wilmington, Delaware at the 76ers Fieldhouse this Friday. Doors open at 7 a.m. and it's free.
I'm looking forward to that. Week 2 of the NFL season was a rough one for starting quarterbacks. Many teams will be posting help wanted signs leading into week 3 starts, like Drew Brees. Ben Roethlisberger suffered injuries that will require surgery and significant time away from the field. Here's a closer look now at some of the quarterback injuries around the league. The Steelers announced that Big Ben will undergo surgery on his right elbow and miss the rest of the season. Meanwhile, according to our Adam Schefter, Brees is expected to have thumb surgery and be out 6 weeks. Not to mention the Jets and Jags have precarious quarterback situations as well. Marcus Spears back here with us. Good to see you. And a guy who's still out there and always seems to be brought up when injuries are addressed here, guys, is one Colin Kaepernick. Stephen A., let me ask you this. Which team should call the former Niners quarterback?
Well, first of all, I think several teams should call him, but I think primarily the Pittsburgh Steelers, because all you have is Mason Rudolph, and I don't know who else you have right now. You can make the argument the Jets after last night, but I'll leave that to y'all. I would say the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I am being told that he has contacted Colin Kaepernick's agent, and others have contacted the Pittsburgh Steelers. Essentially, they're not interested. They've contacted the Jets. No word on them yet. They've contacted the Saints. They didn't get their phone calls returned. One of the things that Nessa Diab, Colin Kaepernick's lovely lady, told me last week when she and I met, she said Colin Kaepernick trains 5 days a week, every day, all 5 days at 5 a.m. At 5 a.m., working out a minimum of 3 hours a day, if not longer. He's ready to go. He wants to be back in the NFL, and it doesn't have to be as a starting quarterback. It could be as a backup quarterback. My response is that clearly he's being blackballed. He violated no laws. He violated no NFL bylaws. And that, to me, is the key. If you had rules in place, if the NFL had mandated that you stand for the national anthem and he took that position, as much as we all support him as black folks in this country, you can understand the NFL if they had that position. But you didn't even mandate it. You strongly encouraged it, but the NBA and MLB mandated it. You, the NFL, did not. So he didn't violate any bylaws. And it gets to a point in time when you look at Cam Newton and his questionable arm, when you look at the Jets and their injuries, when you look at the Saints and Drew Brees out for several weeks, when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers with Big Ben Roethlisberger being out for the year, and you have a guy that some people, even Pete Carroll was on the record stating, he's a starter in this league, not a backup. But this guy is clearly willing to be a backup. Now it gets to a point where you have to revisit it. You settled the matter with him, okay? The issue, again, in the public's mind, we know what happened, and now we've all moved on from that. It appears that Colin Kaepernick accomplished his goal in terms of bringing attention to these issues, so he's ready to move on and play some football. For him not to be given the opportunity, and I'm told by several, he will not get an opportunity at all. I hope that's not true. I hope that eventually they'll lift that black ball tag from him. But it appears that that is clearly the case because with the bevy of injuries that have taken place, there's simply no excuse why he has not gotten a call.
I want to start. I'm going to pick up where you left off
Sure.
about him not getting a call. Okay, collusion, whatever. It is clearly not a football issue why he's not playing. And it's supposed to be meritocratic. The best football players play. He hasn't broken any laws. He hasn't broken any rules. And yet he's being, as you said, blackballed by the league when he'd like to be whiteballed by the league, which I suppose means you get to play. Look, Colin Kaepernick is in his physical prime. He has taken a team to the Super Bowl. He has been called by some respected people a guy who could potentially be the best ever at one point in his career. He's experienced. He is now in a league more than ever before where, like, play action, dual threat quarterbacks are succeeding. And he doesn't have a job in a quarterback-starved league where there are injuries. We've never seen injuries like this behind, under center by week 2. Quarterbacks are going down. Backup quarterbacks are going down. He'd work in Pittsburgh, although I think Mason Rudolph, I think it was a third-round pick.
Third-round pick,
was, he showed some promise. By the way, Luke Falk looked decent to me. But the Jets need a quarterback. And who do they have on that team right now on offense?
Le'Veon Bell.
How would that work out, Marcus?
It would be a beautiful thing with an RPO situation. Listen, the thing that I've always tremendously respected about both of you guys was the ability to separate football from the issue. I think shows do a disservice when they try to intertwine both of them, right? Because you have other people on one hand saying, well, Colin Kaepernick wasn't that good of a quarterback. That's the reason why. Let me remind you who's playing quarterback in the NFL right now. Don't ever say Colin Kaepernick was not good enough or he was declining when Blake Bortles had an $80 million contract. So let's just get rid of that sentiment that people were saying the reason why he's not in the league or he doesn't have a job is because he was declining as a player. That's number one. Number two is this. Colin Kaepernick would help teams be more efficient in what the new NFL is. He was sort of the first version of Lamar Jackson and what they're doing. Exactly. and what Dak Prescott is doing now in their offenses. And what everybody is raving about is what Harbaugh did with Colin Kaepernick in San Francisco. Yes, they had great defense. Yes, they had really good players. Colin Kaepernick made that go. So regardless of all of that,
if they tried to change him as a player, by the way, that's when the regression
started. So, and now, Max, coincidentally, that's what they're embracing now. Like we have quarterbacks that come out like Lamar, who they say it should have been a running back or a wide receiver. Now Baltimore has built an offense around him, and now he's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
The difference is they don't kneel for the anthem.
Okay.
No question.
That's what we're really talking about.
I need to speak because I need to come to you with something that's very, very important because you played in the league, we didn't. I got text messages this morning as well as last night. And I don't agree, and I want to emphasize because I know that Nessa Diab, his lady, is watching along with Colin Kaepernick and others. And I invited them on this show. They can have the whole 2 hours with First Take. If they take us up on that offer, that's fine. If they don't, they don't. That's their prerogative. It doesn't matter. But let me say this. It's very, very important. I had folks in the league telling me that in the eyes of some players, he sealed his fate the moment he settled the grievance with the National Football League. In the eyes of players, and it's very, very important that Colin Kaepernick and his lady hears this. In the eyes of some of these players, as recently as this morning, they were saying, Stephen, when he reached that settlement agreement, particularly when he didn't reveal what the settlement entailed, what have I been harping about for months, Molly and Max? Mm-hmm. The confidentiality portion. Wait a minute. You took a very, very public stance. You know, racial oppression, racial inequality, police brutality. You wanted to bring attention to those issues. You filed a grievance because they were blackballing you, and they clearly were, okay? But then you settled, and we don't know the particulars. Those players, I'm just telling you what I was told. Those players, some players in the league believe that may have sealed his fate because by settling for it, you basically said, all right, I'm cool. And you, in their eyes, if you were so gung-ho about this issue, either you wouldn't have settled, or when you settled, you would have told them what you settled.
I have a message for those players.
So as a result of that, I disagree with them, and I'll leave that to you because I'm with you, and I disagree with them feeling that way. But I needed to come to Marcus because as a former player in this league, are you hearing the same thing that I just was told?
Yeah, the settlement was looked upon as an agreement for me. I don't think it was necessarily looked at by guys as an agreement not to ever be in the league again.
No, we know that.
But it was an agreement against everything perceptionally that you were doing by going at the power structure.
Right.
That's the issue that players have.
That's what they were saying.
Here's the only thing I'll say, Max, before
and I disagree with them, by the way. I disagree with those players.
Here's the thing I'll say about that. If it's been any time, because I've actually loved how Colin Kaepernick has stayed away from the fray, away from the media and the spotlight. This is the one issue that I thought he needed to explain because we killed Jay-Z.
That's right.
About this whole thing with the NFL and how it looked and using cap situation to come in agreement and do what he's doing for the league. And they don't owe this to anybody. But this was the one thing I thought they needed to clearly say what it was in order for people not to feel like the movement was dead because you agree with the NFL.
There are two separate things here. One, Colin Kaepernick chose to exercise his First Amendment rights to not parrot the owner of the team's political beliefs. Because, again, if kneeling is making a political statement that people don't like, then standing is making a political statement that they do like. And Colin Kaepernick does not have to make the same statements that the owner of the team makes, and he didn't. And that wasn't not only not against the law, it's not against the bylaws, as you pointed out, of the NFL. That's one issue. The other issue is he wants to play quarterback in the NFL. Those issues constantly get conflated. They're two separate issues. I understand what you guys mean about the optics and how that may rub players the wrong way, some players, but in fact, he's being consistent. This is how I feel and how I'm going to exercise my First Amendment rights.
No doubt.
And this is my desire to ply my trade, and I qualify based on the merits in the highest league there is.
No, we got to go. So I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut it off by saying this. The one thing that, first of all, we all support him. We know he's being blackballed. We know he deserves to be in the NBA, in the NFL, I'm sorry. Steelers, Jets, Saints, anybody, they should call him. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, and more importantly, last point, I was told that his agent is not necessarily getting some return phone calls, and this was not by her. It was by somebody else, that his agent is not getting those return phone calls. I'm not trying to cast any aspersions on the agent, not knocking him. He's ride and died with Colin Kaepernick. God bless him. But if your agent is not getting a return phone call, Colin Kaepernick needs to look at that, because there are agents. The last thing you have to worry about is them getting their phone calls returned. That's a problem. That's a problem. Your agent's got to get return phone calls.
No
or you
question.
got to get an agent that gets his phone calls returned.
And then get the call and then at least
right.
be brought in for a workout.
That's right.
Come on, what's that going to do?
That's right.
All right, we'll leave it there, guys.
You think that an agent would get him in for a workout?
I bet
Action
Drew Rosen out get him in for a
Jackson.
workout.
Has the Ravens soaring in the AFC, but are they good enough to make Stevens A-list? He did make magic happen with Antonio Brown, that's for sure. We put a bow on week 2 when First Take continues. Don't miss what we have in store for you right here on First Take Wednesday. Should the Saints and Steelers look toward the future without their Super Bowl winning quarterbacks? Plus, Paul Feinbaum will tell you if Jim Harbaugh will survive in Wisconsin this weekend. And will Jalen Ramsey be a Jaguar when they face the Titans on Thursday Night Football? All that and more coming up tomorrow right here on First Take.